Hello viewers, how are you? Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to discuss about Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Piaget's theory of cognitive development is a comprehensive theory about the nature and development of human intelligence. It was first created by the Swiss development psychologist Jean Piaget. Jean Piaget lived in between the years 1896 to 1980, born on 1986 Switzerland and died on 16th September 1980 in Switzerland, Geneva. The prizes earned by Piaget are Erasmus Prize, and he is a co-director, co-department of education, UNESCO. He is a member of Executive Council UNESCO, and he is a co-director, Archives de Psychology. And the honorary doctorates given to Piaget are by the universities is Harvard University in 1936 and Manchester University in 1959, Cambridge University in 1962 and Bristol University in 1970, Council for National Academic Award in 1975. Publications by Jean Piaget. Origins of Intelligence in the Child, London, Roger and Kagan Paul in 1936. Play, Dreams and Limitation in Childhood, London, Hinman 1945. A child's cognitive development is about a child constructing a mental model of the world. Development is biologically based and changes as the child matures. Jean Piaget believed that child go through four universal stages of cognitive development. Cognitive development is a field of study in a neuroscience and psychology focusing on a child's development in terms of information processing, conceptual resources, perceptual skill, language learning, and other aspects of brain development and cognitive psychology compared to an adult's point of view. Through his observations of his children, Piaget developed a stage theory of intellectual development that includes four distinct stages. First one is sensory motor stage, birth to 2 years. In this stage, the following major characteristics and development changes are occurred. The infant knows the world through their movements and sensations. Children learn about the world through the basic actions such as sucking, grasping, looking, and listening. Infants learn that things continue to exist even though they cannot be seen. Object preference. There are separate beings from the people and objects around them. They realize that their actions can cause things to happen in the world around them. Learning occurs through assimilation and accommodation. The cognitive development that occurs during the period takes place over a relatively short period of time and involves a great deal of growth. Children are not only learn how to perform physical actions such as crawling and walking, they also learn a great deal about language from the people with whom they interact. The pre-operational stage, 2 to 7 years. In this stage, the following major characteristics and development changes are observed. Children begin to think symbolically and learn to use words and pictures to represent objects. Children at this stage tend to be egocentric and struggle to see things from the perspective of others. While they are getting better with language and thinking, they still tend to think about things in very concrete terms. The emergence of language, that is one of the major hallmarks of the pre-operational stage and development. Children become much more skilled at pretend play during this stage of development. Children struggle with understanding the idea of constancy. Third one is the concrete operational stage, 7 to 11 years. In this stage, the following major characteristics and development changes are seen. During this stage, children begin to thinking logically about concrete events. They begin to understand the concept of conservation, that the amount of liquid in a short, wide cup is equal to that in a tall, skinny glass. Their thinking becomes more logical and organized, but still very concrete. Children begin use inductive logic or reasoning from specific information to a general principle. Children are very concrete and literal in their thinking at this point of development, and they become much more adept at using logic. Thinking becomes much more logical. Development tend to struggle with abstract and hypothetical concepts. Fourth stage is the formal operational stage, 12 and more. At this stage, the following major characteristics and development changes are found. At this stage, the adolescent or young adult begins to think abstractly and reason about hypothetical problems. Abstract thought emerges. Teens begin to think more about moral, philosophical, ethical, social, and political issues that require theoretical and abstract reasoning. Begin to use deductive logic or reasoning from a general principle to specific information. An increase in logic, the ability to use deductive reasoning, and an understanding of abstract ideas. Think more scientifically about the world around them. The ability to systematically plan for the future and reason about hypothetical situations are also critical abilities. Important concepts of cognitive development. Schemas. A schema describes both the mental and physical actions involved in understanding and knowing. Schema are categories of knowledge that help us to interrupt and understand the world. In Piaget's view, a schema includes both a category of knowledge and the process of obtaining that knowledge. As experiences happen, this new information is used to modify, add to, or change previously existing schemas. For example, a child may have a schema about a type of animal, such as a dog. If the child's sole experience has been with small dogs, a child might believe that all dogs are small, furry, and have four legs. Suppose then that the child encounters an enormous dog. The child will take in this new information, modifying the previously existing schema to include these new observations. Assimilation, the process of taking in new information into our already existing schemas, is known as assimilation. The process is somewhat subjective because we tend to modify experiences and information slightly to fit in with our pre existing beliefs. In the example above, seeing a dog and labeling it dog is a case of assimilating the animal into child's dog schema. Accommodation. Adaptation involves changing or altering our existing schemas in light to new information, a process known as accommodation. Accommodation involves modifying existing schemas or ideas as a result of new information or new experiences. New schemas may also be involved during this process. Equilibration, a balance between assimilation and accommodation, which is achieved through a mechanism. As children progress through the stages of cognitive development, it is important to maintain a balance between the applying previous knowledge and changing behavior to account for new knowledge. Equilibration helps to explain how children can move from one stage of thought into the next. One of the most important elements to remember of Piaget's theory is that it takes the view that creating knowledge and intelligence is an inherently active process. I find myself opposed to the view of knowledge as a passive copy of reality. Piaget explained, I believe that knowing an object means acting upon it, constructing systems of transformations that can be carried out or within this object. Knowing reality means constructing systems of transformation that correspond more or less adequately to reality. Piaget's theory of cognitive development helped add to our understanding of children's intellectual growth. It also stressed that children were not merely passive recipients of knowledge. Instead, kids are constantly investigating and experimenting as they build their understanding how the world works. Sensimotor 0 to 2 years. The infant explores the world through direct sensory and motor contact. Object permanence and separation anxiety develop during this stage. Pre-operational 2 to 6 years. The child uses symbols, words, and images to represent objects but does not reason logically. The child also has the ability to pretend. During this stage, the child is egocentric. Concrete operational. The child can think logically about concrete objects and can thus add and subtract. The child also understands conservation. Formal operational 12 years to adult. The adolescent can reason abstractly and think in hypothetical terms. Erikson's psychosocial theory of development. Erik Hamburger Erikson was a German born American developmental psychologist and psychoanalyst known for his theory on psychosocial development of human beings. He may be most famous for coining the phrase identity crisis. Born in 15 June 1902, Frankfurt, Germany, died on 12th May 1994, Harvard, Massachusetts, United States. Education in University of Vienna, known for Erikson's stage of psychosocial development. Erikson's psychosocial theory of development considers the impact of external factors, parents and society on personality development from childhood to adulthood. According to Erikson's theory, every person must pass through a series of 8 interrelated stages over the entire life cycle. First one is infancy, birth to 18 months old, basic trust versus mistrust, hope. During the period or second year of life, the major emphasis is on the mother and father nurturing ability and care for a child, especially in terms of visual contact and touch. The child will develop optimism, trust, confidence, and security. If properly cared for and handled, if a child does not experience trust, he or she may develop insecurity, worthlessness, and general mistrust to the world. Second one is toddler early childhood, 18 months to 3 years. Autonomy versus shame, will. Child has an opportunity to build self-esteem and learns new skills. During this time of the terrible twos, defiance, temper, tantrums, and stubbornness can also appear. Children tend to be vulnerable during this stage, sometimes feeling shame and low self esteem during an inability to learn certain skills. And the third stage is preschooler, 3 to 5 years. Initiative words guilt, purpose, desire to copy the adults around us and take initiative in creating play situations, playing out roles in a trial universe. Erikson was influenced by Freud, involved in the classic Oedipal struggle and resolved through social role identification. First stage is school age child, 6 to 11 years. Industry, words inferiority, competence, unresolved feelings of inadequacy and inferiority, serious problems in terms of competence and self system. And fifth stage is adolescent, 12 to 18 years. Identity, words, role confusion, fidelity, struggle to discover and find his or her own identity, develop a sense of morality and right from wrong, withdraw from responsibilities, moratorium, role confusion and upheaval, develop a strong affiliation and devotion to ideals, causes, and friends. Sixth stage is young adult, 18 to 35 years. Intimacy and solidarity versus isolation, love. At the young adult stage, people tend to seek companionship and love. Some also begin to settle down and start families, although seems to have been pushed back further in recent years. Deep intimacy and satisfying relationships, significant relationships with martial partners and friends. Seventh one is middle-aged adult 35 to 65. Generatively and self-observation or stagnation care. Take on greater responsibilities and control, working to establish stability and to produce something that makes a difference to society. Inactivity and meaninglessness, major life short shift occurs during this stage. And the eighth stage is late adult 65 to death. Integrity words despair, wisdom. Feeling of integrity, contentment, fulfillment, and contribution to society. Reflecting upon their experiences and failures, fear of death as they struggle to find a purpose to their lives. Erikson's sequence of social development. It is categorized as stage, basic conflict, important events, and outcome. In the case of infancy, trust versus mistrust, feeding. Children develop a sense of trust where caregivers provide reliability, care, and affection. A lack of this will lead to mistrust. Early childhood, autonomy versus shame and doubt. Toilet training. Children need to develop a sense of personal control over physical skill and a sense of independence. Success leads to feeling of authority. Failure results in feelings of shame and doubt. Preschool. Initiative versus guilt. Exploration. Children need to begin asserting control and power over the environment. Such in this stage leads to a sense or purpose. School age, industry versus inferiority. Children need to cope with new social and academic demands. Success leads to a sense of competence, while failure results in feelings of inferiority. Adolescence, identity versus role confusion. Teens need to develop a sense of self and personal identity. Success leads to an ability to say true yourself, while failure leads to role confusion and a weak sense of self. Early adulthood, intimacy versus isolation. Young adults need to form intimate, loving relationship with other people. Success leads to strong relationship, while failure results in loneliness and isolation. Middle adulthood, generativity and versus stagnation. Adults need to create or nurture things that will outlast them, often by having children or creating a positive change that benefits other people. Success leads to feelings of usefulness and accomplishment, while failure results in shallow involvement in the world. Maturity 65 to death. Ego integrity versus despair. Adults older need to look back on life and feel a sense of fulfillment. Success at this stage leads to feelings of wisdom, while failures results in regret, bitterness, and despair. Please like, share, and subscribe my channel.